who's watching PBS at all? That's a small list. And then who relies on it? Who's actually like, this is their window to the outside world is through PBS. Well, we haven't heard from Jasmine Crockett since I returned from vacation, so let's check in with her. During a hearing yesterday, Crockett made the case that we have to keep funding PBS because very important to fund PBS because we need Sesame Street to help us to de-radicalize the Middle East, which may sound like an implausible justification, but let's hear her out. Listen.
When you start to talk about whether or not Sesame Street or anything else that's on NPR or PBS ends up in other places, this is so that there is not this warped thought process about the Western world or about the United States. We're talking about making sure that we don't end up allowing people to be radicalized against us because they have a terrible vision of us, because they may be in a government that actually puts out bad, terrible propaganda about us.
So that's all it takes. You know, if only the terrorists could see Sesame Street, they would throw down their suicide vests and get a Costco membership and become fully westernized. They become good Western people if only they could see Sesame Street. If only Osama bin Laden had seen Sesame Street. If only he'd been exposed to the Cookie Monster earlier in life, then the whole trajectory of the 21st century could have changed. Who knows? You know, if they could see Oscar the Grouch, they'd have a pretty accurate view of what life is like in, you know, New York and Los Angeles with people literally living in trash cans, which is also kind of a Dave Chappelle bit. But the funny thing about this argument from Jasmine, aside from how incomprehensibly stupid it is that, and that's really the main thing. It's just a very dumb argument. Now, to her credit, perhaps, if you're trying to make the argument that we need tax money to fund PBS, there is no good way to make that argument. There is no intelligent argument for that position. So because in reality, it's like 30 years ago, we should not have been funding PBS, but at least back then, maybe you could point to actual human beings in the country who watch PBS a lot and maybe rely on it to some extent for information 30 years ago, 35, 40 years ago. These days, who's watching PBS at all? That's a small list. And then who relies on it? Who's actually like, this is their window to the outside world is through PBS. Who are those people? I'd love to know. You know, watching the news lately can be pretty unsettling. Between all the global tensions, supply chain issues, infrastructure problems, it feels like we're walking a tightrope. Most people keep telling themselves that they should get some emergency supplies together, but like so many things, it just keeps getting put off. It's exactly why so many families are finally taking action. You're getting a 3-month emergency food kit from My Patriot Supply. I've been hearing so many good things about them, and their 3-month kit is apparently their most popular option. Provides over 2,000 calories per day for 3 full months. The food has shelf life of up to 25 years, which is pretty incredible. They're running a special deal right now for my listeners, though it likely won't last long, so take advantage of it. Look, nobody wants to be an alarmist, me included, but it's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it, as the saying goes. So don't wait. You can check out all their supplies, including the 3-month emergency kit right now at mypatriotsupply.com/Walsh. They offer free shipping and get orders out incredibly quickly, like 2 to 3 days. Just nice to have that peace of mind. One less thing to worry about when there's already so much uncertainty out there. Again, just visit mypatriotsupply.com/Walsh to grab your 3-month emergency food kit today so you can rest easy tomorrow. Well, they don't exist, so you don't have, there's not much you can do. And so she goes with this. Maybe it's the best possible argument. Although it is weird because she's talking about Sesame Street de-radicalizing people only a day after Elmo went insane. I don't know if you heard about this, but Elmo went insane and started posting anti-Semitic content on his Twitter page. So these are some of the things that Elmo's account posted on Tuesday. I'll put it up on the screen. He posted, quote, This is what I'm reading Elmo's quote. He said, Elmo say all Jews should die. F the Jews. Donald Trump is Netanyahu's puppet because he's in the Epstein files. I can't do the Elmo voice at all. That would make this better. But Jews control the world and need to be exterminated. And then in a follow-up post, he remarked again, kill all Jews. So that was what Elmo said on Twitter. And now Sesame Street has released a statement condemning anti-Semitism. And because that was important to do for all the people who thought that this was like a genuine reflection of Elmo's values, it was important for Sesame Street to come out and condemn that. And they also had to say that Elmo was hacked. It was important for them to clarify. Now, is that true? Personally, I don't know. I don't know what happened. Was the Elmo account hacked? Maybe. Was Elmo finally letting loose and telling us how he actually feels? How he's felt this whole time? I don't know. I can't say. I can only ask questions. Is all I do. If Elmo, here's what I will say. Here's what I will say. If Elmo did want to exterminate the Jewish people, would Sesame Street admit it? Or would they just claim that he was hacked? It's a question. I don't know the answer. Where does Big Bird stand on all this? To me, that's the thing that's really suspicious about it. Just to be, not what is weird to me is that someone put out a statement, but we have not actually heard from the residents of Sesame Street personally. And what I think we need, and the statement is, that's step one. But what I think we actually need, and what I would love to see, for so many reasons, is a press conference with all of the Sesame Street characters in character, answering these questions. So who knows? I will say, though, that just to bring this all for full circle, that with Sesame Street characters engaging in rhetoric like this, I think actually the show would be very popular in the Middle East. Too popular, honestly. In fact, I've heard that sales of the Elmo doll have gone up like 9,000% in Iran since Tuesday. So I don't know what that's all about, but we'll keep track of that story. If you'd like to see what else I have to say, you can access my full show by going to dailywire.com or by going to the Matt Walsh Show Twitter page. Hope to see you there. Godspeed.